Hi folks, and welcome to another episode here of Wine and Food and Two Riders. Today it's 101 degrees outside here in the mid-Atlantic in the US. 101 is pretty hot. We're in mid-July. We're going to make something that's very cool and refreshing and is something you don't need to use the stove for at all. All you need is basically a peeler for the cucumbers, a knife for a little bit of chopping, and a blender, because this is totally just blended. It's called cucumber buttermilk soup. The buttermilk's in the fridge. We've got some cucumber. We've got lime juice. You usually use lemon, but I'm using lime. Herbs of your choice, cilantro today, some sour cream, and you blend it up. You let it cool for, I'd like it to sit in the refrigerator for about 2 hours so it's nice and cold at dinner time. Very refreshing, really healthy, lots of good stuff for you. This recipe comes from the fantastic, but maybe out of print, Joy of Gardening Cookbook by Janet Valentine. Originally published, I think, in about '85. This edition goes back to 1994. April '94 printing. I bought this at the National Arboretum in Washington, D.C. Don't know if you can still get it up there, but it is available on eBay, according to what I'm looking at on my search. It's also available at Walmart. Both of those are going to be used books. It's available for about 21 bucks brand new through Amazon, and for as low as around $6 or $7 on Amazon if you buy a used one in acceptable condition. This is a paper book. It had paper binding. It is a go-to for all kinds of things to do with the bounty of your garden. So this book was so worn out, the binding fell off. My wife sent this off to Kinko's or Office Depot or Office Max or something, where they went ahead and put some spiral binding on it, which is great. Opens up nice and flat now. So I'm gonna move the camera around and we'll get started. Simple, takes you a few minutes. The longest thing is just chilling it. So stick around. Also hit like if you like it, and consider subscribing. We're gonna do food, we do wine, we're gonna do a few other things. So, and welcome back. Well, we've had an early hot spell this year. I went ahead and sliced the lime and squeeze it to make sure I had a tablespoon. I'm going to go over the ingredients really quickly. In the book, they've got a recipe that will feed 6 to 8 people, serve 6 to 8. I'm making this just for 2 to 3 of us tonight. So what we're going to use is 2 cups of peeled and chopped cucumbers, about 2/3 of a cup of buttermilk, and 1/3 of a cup of sour cream, 1/6 of a cup of, it calls for diced scallions, we're going to use just some onion, a little bit of cilantro, usually your herbs you're looking at about 2 tablespoons. I'm going a little bit heavy. That's some frozen cilantro that's kind of almost freeze dried. 1/3 teaspoon of salt, and you let it rock. So first thing is just peel some cukes. I want to talk to you about cucumbers. In the garden this year, my pickling cucumbers, which are these, have come on in advance of my slicers. I usually grow the long, thin, almost seedless Japanese style cukes. These are good for pickles or for slicing, depending on what size you pick them. But I like to get most of the skin off, because sometimes it'll have a little bit of bitterness to it. You can use long, thin cukes if you want. If you use what's the typical, and see, we've got some seeds in here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this spoon, drag it across there. That's a lot of liquid, and it's not a lot of what you want necessarily. If you get field cucumbers, the bigger cukes, you really have to cut them lengthwise and get those seeds out, because they're not going to add anything to the flavor whatsoever. The other thing about field cucumbers, you find them in the store, you'll notice that your miniature cucumbers are going to be sitting on a tray and covered with some kind of saran wrap type stuff. Your English, they call them English cucumbers, but they might be Japanese. Greenhouse grown cukes, they're usually wrapped in plastic. But the field cukes are just sitting there. And they're sitting there, they're not going to dry out and shrink because they've been covered with wax. And that wax is supposedly food grade and supposedly won't hurt you, but it's not going to add to your enjoyment of the food. So if you're using regular cukes, make sure you peel them. You don't want to have extra wax in your diet. Doesn't do you any good. So these guys are a little bit bigger than I'd usually use. Wouldn't pick them this big for pickles normally. So what we got here. And you know, it says roughly chop them, but to tell you the truth, the blender's gonna really whack them. So I'm just short of 2 cups. Got one more little guy here. This will take us to 2 cups. I don't love serving cucumbers with the skin on, and you really don't want to do it with pickling cucumbers because they've got very small spines on them, and kind of an unpleasant mouthfeel with the spines. There's 2 kinds of picklers, 2 general categories: white spine and black spine. The white spine, you don't really notice them that much. If you have black spine, it's really not a attractive presentation to serve them. Okay, so 2 cups, whatever that is, metric, about 450 milliliters. Chuck it in the blender. Now we're looking at what, about a 1/6 of a cup of onion. Can't really read it anymore. That's a 1/3 of a cup measure. So and again, to tell you the truth, you don't need to finely chop this because it's getting ready to get blasted at a couple thousand RPMs in the blender. So that's about 1/2 third. And in goes the cilantro. Buttermilk. I've never been one who's just to sit down and drink a glass of milk. I wouldn't even be able to tell you what buttermilk tastes like compared to regular milk because I don't drink it straight. But 2/3 of a cup of buttermilk in this soup, really quite delicious. Not that different than maybe like thinking about yogurt or a yogurt drink, something like that. And then I think we're looking at just 1/3 of a cup sour cream. A little bit of salt. About 1/3 of a teaspoon. That's about 1/3 of a teaspoon. Barbecue King. Occasionally in these videos you'll see the dogs running around. The dogs are part of something that goes on in the house all the time, and occasionally, in fact right now, dogs like, and my vet recommends, that dogs can eat cucumber skins. It's kind of good to help out with a couple of different things, and they like them. Okay, so we've got our salt, we've got our lime juice, we've got our cilantro, scallions, sour cream, buttermilk, cucumbers. Now all we have to do is blend it up. And let's see if I'll be able to see this. Okay, put the lid on. I'm laughing when I check my ingredients. There was a time years ago when my wife was on travel and my son and I were home, and he wanted to make something sweet to eat. All right, I'm not sponsored by these guys, but it's a Ninja blender, so for what that's worth. So we said, okay, we were running around, probably had the TV on in the background, and we were going to make peanut butter cookies. We got everything going, we put them in the oven, we pulled them out, and they tasted oddly fishy, because that's what they taste like when you don't put peanut butter in your peanut butter cookie. We didn't go over the ingredients, so I always read out loud my ingredients, and here we go. All we have to do is just blend this up. And you don't really want it to be a chunky soup. Even my gazpacho, I like it pretty liquid. So, there we are. Take a look. Consistency is good. Give it a quick taste. Yum. That is tasty. It's going to be great once it chills for an hour or two. Like I say, no oven, no burner involved with this at all. It's just and one thing about that with fresh vegetables, none of the vitamins are sort of deactivated. Everything's really fresh. So sort of a salad in a soup bowl tonight. If you like it, please hit like and check back with us for future videos.